Sad that she doesn't love you anymore and wondering whether to rebuild your relationship or move on? Well, stay tuned because that's what we're going to cover in today's video. What's up, guys? I'm Emyli, head coach and co-founder at emlovz.com. And in 2012, I went on a 100-date experiment. Since then, I've been helping my clients find love fast with my coaching and matchmaking programs. And this is a topic that really hits close to home because there was a time in my relationship, I've been in my relationship for 10 years now, that I felt that I was no longer in love with my partner. And luckily, we were able to get through it. And you can too, if it's the right person. But there's also times when this sort of things happen and it's time to move on. So we're going to talk about that in today's video. So the first part of this video is going to be the story about how my partner and I, we're now engaged, but how we actually broke up around the 7-year mark. The 7-year itch is real. And then how we were able to rebuild our relationship and how you can too. My partner and I had been together for 7 years at the time. We had a little hiccup where we basically broke up and I felt like I was no longer in love with him. What was going on at the time? I'm going to give you a little backstory in case you can relate and maybe this is what's going on in your relationship. But we had a couple times where we broke up because we were having a lot of tension. One, we were living in way too small of a place. We were in a really small apartment. San Francisco is crazy. Cost of living is crazy. And we were on rent control. So we had like this 500 square foot apartment that we were both living in. Now, I left corporate America and was working there full time. He is in an outside sales position where he works a lot from home as well. So we were living and working in 500 square feet. If this is happening to you, this is a major cause for the dissolution of your relationship. And sometimes all you just need is a little more space. So that was one of the reasons. Another reason was because we started to shift in our career trajectory. So from that, from a lot of the relationship we both had jobs where we were working not outside of the house, but we were like working for someone else. And when I shifted into full-time entrepreneurship, it put us on two different wavelengths. So I was really facing a lot of my fears around failure, around not having a boss, around whether or not I could do it. And he was still kind of in this old paradigm of working for somebody else. And that caused a lot of tension in our relationship because I felt like I was moving ahead of him and he was staying the same. And so if you're having something in your relationship where one person is growing or changing and the other maybe doesn't feel like they're growing or changing, whether that's in career, with friendships, it could also be like emotionally and spiritually. If one partner has a growth mindset and the other partner it maybe is not growing at that same speed, that can cause a lot of tension. But the great news is if you're that partner who is maybe observing that your other partner is growing really quickly, you can take action steps to start your own personal development and growth. So if you feel like you're stuck in your career or you're holding yourself back in some way, try to catch up to your partner if you can, so that you don't have that huge disconnect where you're on two different total wavelengths. So I think that was part of it. Then there was also a really big challenge that happened for Tom, my partner, where he lost someone who was like a father figure to him. And he wasn't totally dealing with it. He didn't like do therapy or anything that maybe women are more inclined to do. Instead, he really threw himself into work. And so he was working like 24/7. And as a woman in the relationship, I didn't really feel like I was getting the same amount of attention and love and all of that closeness and connection that we had previously experienced. So I didn't even know this was what was causing a lot of the tension, was that he was hurting basically from the loss of this very important father figure. And he was, instead of dealing with it or talking about it, he was really throwing himself into work. And so that really caused a disconnect. So if you feel that you have a disconnect, maybe because you had something huge happen in your life, you lost somebody very important to you, or just something happened. His father had a heart attack. And so he had all of these very important people in his life either going away or having the fear of them going away. And it caused him to get really scared and kind of internalize everything and just instead focus on work to kind of escape from those feelings, those uncomfortable feelings. And so the fact that he may not have been in touch with that, or we may not have been communicating about that, it really caused a disconnect between the two of us. And so I didn't feel that closeness and connection anymore. So I started to feel like maybe our relationship was over. Maybe that had ended. So if that's happening for you, it's really important to acknowledge it and to work through it with your partner. That person doesn't have to be inside of your head and they don't have to be your therapist, but it's really important that your partner understands what the heck is going on for you emotionally, so they don't take it personally and think that you're just not that into them anymore because maybe you're working more than you usually do, or drinking more than you usually do, or smoking weed more than you usually do, doing something because you're trying to escape these uncomfortable feelings that are coming up, but then not communicating what's happening to your partner. That can really cause a huge disconnect. So from there, then I started to, I think subconsciously, I must have been looking for that missing connection elsewhere a bit. And, I developed strong feelings for several different men outside of my relationship. I didn't act on those feelings, but it was, when you're not getting that same connection that you used to get from your partner for whatever reason, the natural inclination is to start looking elsewhere. So if your partner is talking about not being in love with you anymore, it's possible that that's coming from something subconscious that you're not even aware of, right? But it's pushing her away. So you want to really get clear on what's going on for you. What big things have happened in your life recently? Is there a problem with your job? Are you unhappy? Do you have extreme stress? You really want to get clear about that, especially if you've been together for a really long time. This is somebody that you love very much. You want to figure out, is there something causing this to happen? We're really growing apart. Why is this happening? So for us, that was really what it was. And we ended up breaking up. And when we got back together, we realized we needed to exit that small space. We could not both live and work in 500 square feet. That would cause anyone to break up. We also did some couples counseling together. We started really communicating about things that were difficult. I also started to try and put in a little bit more work to recognize when my partner was in pain, because it may be a little bit less intuitive. Not to say all men maybe don't do therapy or don't acknowledge their emotions, but I think a lot of men in our culture are taught not to talk about things. So it's also important for your partner to try and be intuitive, but she can't read your mind. So if this is something that's happening to you, really think through what maybe you could be sharing with her that you're not sharing with her. And then what maybe you're not even in touch with yourself that you're blocking and trying to escape from. Another reason why I think we were able to get back together was because I really never stopped loving Tom, but I stopped feeling the connection the way it was. So like I loved him, but I didn't feel like I was in love with him. And then he basically fought for the relationship. He fought for it. He continued, reaching out to me. He gave me space though, so that I could really process, but he reached out to me. He demonstrated to me that he was willing to move mountains to keep our relationship together. And it reminded me of just how much I did love him. And so, we moved and we had a rocky period, a transition period. And then we got a dog, and that was amazing. I think that really helped us bring us together, and to feel like we were moving forward in some direction. We're not quick to get married and have kids. We're very conservative in that way. We want to make sure we make the right choice. So now we're engaged. It's been 10 years, but at that time, we hadn't taken a lot of steps forward in our relationship. And so getting a dog was a really big step forward for us. And it was also a big step forward to move to a new place together. And those things, doing that together, going to a brand new place with brand new people in a brand new apartment, that really helped to reconnect us, I think. So changing our environment. And then getting a dog, I think was so great, because then we wanted to spend time all together, and it really helped to keep us from being so separate as we were when there was, we were just working all the time, basically. So if you've decided that you would prefer not to rebuild the relationship and you want to move on, what I recommend is that you take 2 weeks to consciously grieve that relationship. Having that set time limit on it allows you to be sad, allows you to eat the food that you wouldn't normally eat, and do the things that you wouldn't normally do to grieve the relationship. That is so important, because if you start dating before you grieve the relationship, you're going to bring all your baggage into those new experiences, which is going to tarnish those new experiences. And then it's going to create this PTSD thing where you're like, "Ooh, dating is terrible." But it's really just because you were bringing in a bunch of crap. right? So you want to take 2 weeks to consciously grieve, make sure that you get that out of your system, really clean out your system. And then I recommend mega dating. So mega dating is my dating philosophy that I've used with hundreds of guys to help them find the one. And it's the process of dating multiple women at the same time to diffuse your energy and increase your confidence. It also helps you to avoid settling for someone who isn't 100% right for you. So I would definitely recommend mega dating if you want to know how to fill up your funnel so you can go on 1 to 2 dates a week with women you're really excited about. That is exactly what I teach in my coaching program. You can learn more about that at emlovz.com. And if you do think the coaching program might be a fit for you, I would love to chat with you. You can book a call with myself or a member of my team over at emlovz.com/book. Hope this was helpful. If you like this video, make sure to like it, subscribe to the channel, leave us a comment in the comments below, and follow us on social media. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll catch you next time.